We saw what kind of impact that some of the Buffalo boys had on this year's edition of the Toronto Blue Jays, and it was great. But we're going to talk about some other young prospects that have really been impressing and that are headed to the Arizona Fall League. So stay tuned for what's coming up on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse, and I hope you're enjoying this off day. We're going to bring you some prospect news to enjoy on this day, but Nick and I are super excited to continue our partnership with Rentals.ca. And if you didn't know, Rentals.ca is Canada's largest apartment hunting network, and to facilitate your renting needs, whether it be homes, condos, or apartments, they're available coast to coast in Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, Vancouver, Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Halifax.
Yeah, and the website's super clean, super easy to use. And if you've been tuning into these videos, you know that my family has personally used this website. Peter's used this website, and it's the best one out there. So make sure to check it out. And they have a special offer kind of going on right now. So if you want to check out the link in the pinned comment or the description as well, you'll have a chance if you're over 18 to win a month's free rent up to $2,500. So we want to see one of you guys win that, and hopefully you can go ahead and do that. So thank you again to Rentals.ca for sponsoring.
Click that link, baby.
For sponsoring this section of this video. And yeah, let's get into some stuff now about the Blue Jays. And Peter, there's two guys, well, one main guy we're going to talk about, and that is Mitch White, who has been dominating, and he could have a big impact on the Jays' future going forward. And we'll also discuss the Arizona Fall League, which has a lot of prospects that are very, very close to the majors. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how Mitch White's been doing since he's returned, I guess, from being DFA'd, a while ago, as of September 15th, and he's actually improved these stats, but Mitch White had a 2.84 ERA in 31.2 innings pitched with 36 strikeouts, and this is just an example of one of his starts where he went 5 innings, 1 hit, 9 strikeouts, and this was one of his other starts more recently, 10 strikeouts in 3 2/3 innings pitched, and of course the ERA is still pretty, inflated in the minors, but looking at, his fastball's up to 97 plus miles per hour. He's striking out way more guys. He had that at bat that was kind of trending on Twitter and Jay's Universe for a little bit a couple weeks ago against Jackson Holiday, the top prospect in baseball in the Orioles farm system. Peter, Mitch White, if he continues this trajectory, there's no doubt that he's going to be battling with Alek Manoah for a spot this offseason for the fifth starter spot, depending on how they handle that.
Yeah, and who knows what's going on with Alek Manoah. So that job may be Mitch White's to lose. And I think Bowden Francis is going to be in the mix as well. I'm sure the Jays are going to look on the trade market, on the free agent market to potentially get a fifth starter in that spot there. But yeah, they got to do their due diligence. And Mitch White has made some adjustments here. He's throwing a lot harder than he did. His spin rate is up. And his stuff just looks like it'll play a little bit more. He's not... I don't think he's going to be that big-time strikeout guy at the major league level, but we saw the amount of struggles that he had when he was with the Blue Jays. They couldn't even put him in when the Jays were up by 6, 7, 8 runs at times. So he wasn't ready for the major leagues. Luckily, he cleared waivers, and he seems to have figured something out now. The whole thing with Mitch White is putting it all together over the course of 162. Can he be, I don't know, a Ross Stripling type of pitcher? Can he be what Bowden Francis is to this year's Blue Jays next year? Those are the big question marks surrounding him. It doesn't matter what you do against AAA pitching. It's all about how you can measure up against major league hitting. And Mitch White hasn't been able to have any success in the majors apart from some minor stints with the Dodgers there. He hasn't really found his footing with the Blue Jays. Now, will they give him an extended look for that fifth starter spot? That's the real question that we're going to have to ask ourselves, because at the end of the day, they know what's going on with him a lot better than we do. But with the uncertainty of Alek Manoah, with the lack of experience that Bowden Francis has, I'm sure Mitch White is definitely going to get a chance to go ahead and win that fifth starter spot in the offseason.
Yeah, and it's pretty big, for the Blue Jays going forward, having a guy like Mitch White kind of emerge. And like you said, with the Dodgers, he saw some limited success and limited innings, and the Jays were kind of hoping when they traded, Nick Frasso for Mitch White that he would be able to maybe replicate what Ross Stripling did when they traded and acquired him from the Dodgers the year prior. Didn't work out in the majors, but now his fastball, when he played with the Jays, sitting 94, 95, he obviously has that great 12-6 curveball, but everything just seems to be getting a lot better for him and a lot more electric. And looking at his stats again, like his ERAs hasn't been great, but the big thing here is since he came back from being DFA'd, maybe he put a chip on his shoulder, maybe they made some adjustments, maybe they spent more time working with him, or maybe it's just a case of Mitch White figured something out. But regardless, his miles per hour is up at least, 1 or 2, and especially with a guy who, doesn't strike out a lot of players, at least before this random stretch. It's very, very important. And I think that, like you said, it might be Mitch White's job to lose to a degree. He's probably going to fight with Bowden Francis and Alec Manoah, I'd assume, depending how that situation goes. But it's very, very exciting. And regardless of, he's never going to be that ace, probably not even a top 3 starter, but it's very big for the Jays' future if they can get a guy in the 4th or 5th starter role from within, rather than having to, trade your key pieces for one or having to make a signing of an older guy.
Yeah, well, just look at how important Hyunjin Ryu has been to this team. He's not an ace anymore. He's not that number one starter anymore. He's not striking out 10 guys per 9 innings, but he's giving you a chance. And his ERA is under 3. He's going out there, he's battling, he's giving it his all. And that's the importance of having a consistent 5th starter. The Jays didn't have that all year long with Alec Manoah. It was always a revolving door in that position. We didn't know what we were going to get every 5th day from that spot. But once you have consistency, I'm not saying you need a guy that's going to have a 3 ERA over the course of 162 games, but someone that you could rely upon to not walk the ballpark, someone that you can know that can keep the ball in the ballpark as well. Those are very valuable things to have out of your 5th starter, and that's exactly what Hyunjin Ryu has been doing. I don't think the Jays are going to re-sign him unless he wants to take a 1-year deal and then hit free agency again, but that doesn't seem very likely at his age. So, yeah, Mitch White is going to be in the mix, Bowden Francis, some guys on the trade market. We just don't know as of yet, but this is what you want to see. You want to see those guys that battle it out for the final roster spots give you these tough decisions to make. And that's what Mitch White is doing. And hopefully he can carry it into spring training next year. Obviously, he's not going to have any impact this year. He's not going to be on the postseason roster. He's not even on the 40-man as we speak. But next year, he could definitely be a legit guy to watch out for. Hopefully, he could just keep it up here.
Yeah, and for a team that we saw throughout the whole season lacked minor league depth, Mitch White clearing, the DFA, the waivers, is probably one of the more lucky things, maybe, or, it's very, very good that he did that because at the very least he provides depth. But like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up even snagging that job. Because coming into this season, let's not forget, he was the guy who was battling with Yusei Kikuchi for that 5th roster spot alongside Zach Thompson and a couple others, and ultimately Kikuchi deserved that and worked out. But I don't know, let us know what your thoughts are on Mitch White. Do you think he's going to have much of an impact, or if you are still a little bit shook from when, his last appearance with the Jays? But one quick other thing here, and this was, announced a couple days ago. We're sending a lot of pitchers to the Arizona Fall League. Some names you'll recognize: Canadian Desan Brown, Damiano Palmer, and, of course, Ricky Tiedemann is probably the biggest one here because he's going to be getting more innings pitched. Nate Pearson is not on this list. He's obviously got called up for the Jays, and he said that he doesn't think he's going to be going to this fall league. But, Peter, this is strictly for Ricky Tiedemann, at least, to get him more innings, to potentially have him ready for at some point throughout the season next year. Any other guys you can touch on Tiedemann, or any other guys you want to touch on that you see here or to keep an eye on?
Damiano Palmer is a guy that's really been tearing the cover off the ball in the minor leagues for the Blue Jays. I think he's up to Double-A now, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if he got the call for the Bisons, but he's a guy that has a lot of power, has very good approach at the plate, and someone that is a dark horse to not make the Blue Jays next year, but maybe fight for one of those final spots there. Just because there's so much depth at the position. Addison Barger's a third baseman, Orelvis Martinez. There's a lot of guys that are clogging up the pathway for him to the major leagues. But the way that he's been hitting, if he can't crack the big league team, I'm sure he's going to be a trade chip for someone else because that kind of bat speed that he possesses, that kind of approach that he has, doesn't come around very often. Obviously, I'd love to see him stick around because he is Canadian. He is someone that was just phenomenal this year for the Blue Jays. But yeah, I don't know if I directly see a pathway for him making the major leagues. But he is someone that I want to look out for because he can up his trade value and maybe get the Blue Jays a bigger piece down the line that could help them compete.
Yeah, I was going to say, depending obviously how the next 3-4 weeks or even shorter go, this could highlight some of the guys that we might see, kind of being auditioned to get traded like we saw during last offseason. We traded for Varsho. Obviously, it was Moreno. But, some players here could be auditioning. CJ Van Eyck has been a guy who used to be, a lot higher up in the prospect rankings. But overall, I'm just excited to see Ricky Tiedemann go out there and get more innings because he's looked very, very solid, albeit a bit shaky since coming back from his injury. But I think it's going to be very, very exciting seeing those guys. And this time of year, during the Arizona Fall League, it's always fun to still see some baseball after the Blue Jays hopefully make a big
Right.
run during this season. But that'll wrap up the video. Hopefully the Jays can take care of business starting tomorrow. It's a bit of a nerve-wracking, but it's an exciting time to be a Jays fan. And as of now, if you made it this far, we have about a 97% chance to make the playoffs. So it's looking very, very good. And again, thank you to rentals.ca for sponsoring this video. So check them out in the link in the pinned comment. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.